All right, good evening, everyone, and we are live again once again for the Missouri Liberty Report. And without any further ado, let me get the recording started, and we shall proceed with the Liberty Talk.
The Constitution isn't just a document. It's a blueprint for freedom. We're breaking down politics at every level, exposing government overreach, and going where the mainstream media surely won't. Join us in defending individual rights against the bureaucratic tide. You're listening to the Missouri Liberty Report.
All right, folks, and we are back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Thanks to all of you who continue to watch on YouTube, Rumble, listen via podcast, or at molibertyradio.us. Again, we greatly appreciate all of you for sticking around with us and continuing to support the show. We've got a lot of things to talk about tonight, and a lot of self-congratulatory Republicans out there, and it's pretty freaking hilarious. I'm not going to lie. The Magnificent Seven, the self-proclaimed Magnificent Seven, that's the Missouri Freedom Caucus. Boy, they are, I don't know, Brandon, I don't know how to word it, except they're almost breaking their arm trying to pat themselves on the back.
Well,
it's
see, that's why they had this Magnificent Seven end of session meeting, is so they could sit in a circle and pat each other on the backs in circle. They could. That's what this was for, you know, because that is straining. Pull a dorsinus muscle right there, getting that too many times, so they gotta get each other right on the back in a circle there. Strain the arm less when you do it that way.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to play a few minutes of the video. I'm just going to play the audio because now that I'm using Discord, I still haven't figured out how to, like, pop the screen up and do all that. So I'm not going to mess with that right now. I'm just going to play the audio, and you all try not to vomit on your shoes. I don't know how else to put it. Again, it's so much self-congratulatory nonsense.
I will preface it with this. Outside of Mike Moon and Bryant Wolfen, these are the best of the Missouri politics. Like these are the best members of the House and the Senate. And this is and if that, take that however you want. You know, however you view that. Like outside of Mike Moon and Bryant Wolfen, these guys really are fighting the hardest for like conservative values, and that's what makes this. You know, however you want to view that, that's what makes this so funny to me, is that this is actually some of the best we have, actually.
Yeah, I mean, according to a lot of their constituents and themselves included, they are the cream of the crop, if you want to call them that. I mean, I find it horrifying, but, you know, whatever. What the heck do I know, you know?
That's what I'm saying, is like Patterson and the Democrats, they're not better than these guys. These guys are, like, I'll say it, like, objectively better, marginally at best. But that's why I think this video is so funny. Is like, this is like the rally cry for the freedom-loving people.
Yeah,
I guess that's all the that's all the backstory I have.
I don't have much more to add than that. It's disheartening. If this is the best that the people can do, because these guys, that's the thing, folks, these people don't get there on their own. You know, they don't fall out of the sky or pass through a membrane, and then they're a House, a representative or a senator. No, they have to get there through by election means, right? That means the only time that we really participate in a democracy is when we go to the ballot box and we cast a vote for whoever we want. That's when we participate in a democracy. That should be the only time we participate in a democracy, right? But I love George Carlin. He used to say, this is the best we can do. Garbage in, garbage out. Because when he talked about, I wish I could play the audio, but it's not radio friendly. When he said, these people come from American schools, American colleges, American churches, American businesses. They, generally, except for like Ilhan Omar and a couple others, they're all American, they're natural born citizens. And they go through all this, they go to the same schools and colleges that a whole lot of other people do. And then they find themselves in these seats of power. And again, they almost break their own arm trying to pat themselves on the back. And a lot of people in the comments are all fired up. And I'm like, okay. I mean, if you think this is awesome, if you could get 20 Bryant Wolfens in there, your minds would be blown. But let's listen to this, because it's vomit inducing, and I'm going to play like 5-10 minutes. Okay. It's 38 minutes long. Let's not go through it all, because then we'll start drinking heavily, and then everybody be intoxicated, and we'll be slurring our speech. So let me pull this up.
Everyone, welcome to the waning days of the 2025 first regular session of the legislative year 2025. We are coming to a close. The Senate has adjourned. The House is wrapping up on some very important priorities. I want to bring in the chairman of the Missouri Freedom Caucus. This is the Missouri Freedom Caucus. Several of us, some more maybe in and out over the course of the next few minutes. Senator Rick Bratton. Rick, what a difference a year makes.
Yeah, no, this has been a fantastic year. This is it. I mean, we blood, sweat, and tears last year. I mean, literally eviscerated, lost our chairmanships, parking spots,
almost our trash cans.
Almost our trash cans and our office furniture that we get to enjoy here. To this finishing session, to where we basically ran the table this go around. And we couldn't have done it without this whole caucus here. And we have 2 House members of the several that we have, but we couldn't do it without the bicameral aspect of it. We had the Magnificent Seven that we started out with. Yesterday was like the cherry on top. I mean, it was fantastic. 2 PQs to run.
Rick, explain that to people and how historic that was, because I don't believe the previous question motion has been moved in the Senate for years.
Well, this is my 5th year in the Senate, and we have never done a previous question to end debate in the filibuster in my tenure. So to finish out doing 2 on a life bill to actually undo Amendment 3 and then put forth the protections of life in there. I mean, it was huge. And the Prop A fix to be able to repeal the sick leave, to finish it out with that. But we had a plethora of things of the Magnificent Seven that we did all the way through. I don't want to be the only one talking, but I just want to give props to Justin real quick, because guys, I mean, he went through hell trying to run for speaker, because he saw something that, in a flawed leadership, the direction it was going, and he was willing to literally stick his neck out on the line to run for a leadership position. I mean, it was literally, I'm not going to say David and Goliath, because David overcame Goliath, but it wasn't a different aspect of David and Goliath, because it forced the leadership to move from this radical left, agenda, to where they had to move to where we were able to get HJR 73 done. And I didn't know if you wanted to kind of give that.
I totally agree. Look, so the caucus, not the caucus, but the leadership was not wanting to pass pro-life legislation at all. They were on the other side of this issue. But what Justin did when he ran was you got a lot of members in the caucus in the House to say, now, JP, you're pro-life, right? You're really going to do this, right? I mean, because I support you, like, you're going to do this, right? This is really important to us. And that shifted, the sentiments shifted, a lot of the talking points over in the House, which really made it possible to make sure that we pass the pro-life bill.
And Representative Justin Sparks, Vice Chair of the Missouri Freedom Caucus, and he's on the House side. Justin, people never want anybody to rock the boat in the House, and they just let the light of succession in this term-limited world just carry out. But you felt that you needed to rock the boat. You can, I'll say it for you, you can say I told you so now here at the end. And everybody, I think, loves you again, but you were right in the need to open everyone's eyes, because otherwise, I don't know that Senator Schnelting or the rest of them would have been able to move this issue to the fore, because it would have just got stuck in the House.
Right. Well, when we formed the Freedom Caucus, it was because year after year after year, the policy priorities of the Republican Party platform in Missouri were not getting done with the last, for one reason or another. And we jointly decided that we needed to represent the will of the people and do those things and get them across the finish line. And part of that is challenging leadership when leadership is threatening to take the caucus in the wrong direction. And that's why I did it. And it was a hard decision to make, because the prospects of victory were not high, and it caused a lot of consternation for my colleagues, which I did not enjoy. But we are to be the conservative conscience of both the House and the Senate, and we are to do and put the will of the people above ourselves. And so what we tried to do, and I think we accomplished it together this year, was move the needle in the conservative direction, and actually to see these great conservative legislative wins at the end of session is incredible. I'm proud to be a part of it.
Nick, Senator Nick Shore here. Nick, you're a legislative bill machine, number one. But number two, you and Rick were able to do something this year that you were prevented from doing last year, and that was to work with the Senate leadership team.
Yeah.
From day one. Talk about how critical that was, all the work and the groundwork you laid back in December, leading up to the launch of session in January, that there were massive fruit for Senator Schnelting's Amendment 3, repeal and replace. We're going to protect women, family, and children. We're going to help businesses from being crushed into oblivion. So talk about that dynamic.
Well, I think it goes back to last year when the Freedom Caucus was formed, and all of the fighting, all of the Republican-owned Republican fighting, while the Democrats were literally eating popcorn last year, while our priorities were being killed by other Republicans because of personality clashes. And now that, the term limits had an impact, we brought in two guys over from the House, and Rick and I went and spoke with leadership, Cindy Laughlin and Sully Lukemeyer, to say, look, we can't have that again. Why don't you work with us? Let us be your pit bull. Let us go to the front lines and fight these issues on life, liberty, taxation, pursuit of happiness, and we did that. And from day one, we recognized the voters were misled by the millions upon millions of dollars out of state funds, and $4 million that came from a Swiss billionaire when it came to Amendment 3. Now we have abortion on demand, unregulated abortion. Minors can have surgery, gender transition surgeries at any time now because of Amendment 3. And we recognized from day one that we were going to work as a Freedom Caucus with leadership to find a path in the Missouri Senate and the Missouri House. Thanks to all the leaders here that were able to work with leadership and not work against them. And it comes down to communication. This leadership team that we have, even the governor's office, that had constant communication on this issue, the life issue, the crime issue. All applause goes to all of these people that have been involved. And this is the first year I've actually seen the Republicans. Yeah, we differed on a few things. I know the energy bill I voted against, a couple other approaches. I would have liked to see tax cuts go in a more broad-based fashion. We're going to do that again next year. But as of right now, this is the first time the Republicans came together and got some big wins, even at this late in the game.
All right, we'll stop it there. And listen, I know I probably come on here sounding like a jerk a lot when it comes to these. When they get something across the finish line and they want to spike the ball and have a celebration, right? They want to do their touchdown dance. Here's my problem, all right? So yes, HJR 73 will be on the ballot in November 2026. That puts a near total ban on abortion on the ballot. And a resolution passed 21-11. Okay. Here's my problem. All right? Because Again, I hate to be a pessimist, right? But I've seen it way too many times that it's going to hit the ballot, it's going to fail, right? It's going to fail, and then they're going to turn around and they're going to blame it on outside money again, right? Here's the problem. Guess what they should have done first? They should have worked on the IP reform that the people have been asking the Republicans for in the House and the Senate for the last several years. And then you get that done, then you put this on the ballot. Because then instead of 16 counties passing out of however many counties Missouri has, now it's much harder. But that's the thing. They want to deal with this. I get it. I don't mind saying, hey, we're going to put a near total ban on abortion. I don't have any problem with that. The problem is once it's in the Constitution, it is almost impossible to remove it. It's real. I don't know that it's ever been done in Missouri. I don't know my Missouri history that well. It doesn't matter what the topic is, if it's abortion, if it's casinos, if it's bingo, whatever. Good luck trying to get it removed. I think if the Republicans want to keep, and people like myself want to keep the Constitution from being changed so easily, then get IP reform done, right? Get that done. So no matter who wants to change the Constitution, if it's a big red Republican idea or if it's a big blue Democrat idea, they're going to have to work their tails off. And they're really going to have to put forth something worthy of going into the Constitution. And right now, off the top of my head, I can't see anything that needs to go into the Constitution. You can put it in the revised statutes of Missouri, make a law that advances freedom, even though you shouldn't have to, because there's a Constitution that tells you how you're supposed to do your freaking job. But whatever. Okay, you could do it that way, but now we're going to do this. I hope it passes. I see it failing because the big money that they speak of is going to come through and it's going to fail. They're going to blame it on big money again. And to me, the priority should have been get IP reform done first, then do this, and then maybe, just maybe, you get things done. But I know I sound like a big old jerk when I talk about this. Like, oh, John's poo-pooing all over him. Again, these guys want to sit here and they want to brag about how awesome they are. I wonder how many of the bills that they pushed through were actually constitutional. That's my first. Tim Jones, who's a former Speaker of Missouri House, he loves to brag about how awesome he was, right? And he still likes to brag about how awesome he is. We've covered the Justin Sparks thing, right? He tried to get money set aside in the budget to build a daycare center for St. Louis County police, employees. But he's pro-freedom and pro-this. That's not pro-freedom. Taking taxpayer money to fund a daycare center for St. Louis County police employees, that's not freedom-minded. That's not constitutional. Oh, yeah, it says, Agorizer says, why patch the hole in the boat when you can raise money for buckets? You're not wrong, brother.
Yeah.
Or sister. I don't know if you're male or female. I'm not trying to assume your gender here because we don't do that on this show. But, yeah, you're not wrong. Go ahead, Brandon.
Oh, to your point, and correct me if I'm wrong, I did not hear them mention the word Constitution one time in that whole thing there.
No.
He mentioned freedom. He mentioned lowering taxes. But Schroer was the one mentioning that he was like, I would have liked to see more tax cuts, broadly speaking. But I'm pretty sure he was the one sponsoring legislation to add more taxes to the marijuana industry.
Yeah, he was trying to take all the intoxicating hemp products and move them to a dispensary. So
yeah, and add taxes onto everything.
Yeah.
And just hurt small business in general. Like the people, like the general store people who sell CBD kratom and all that.
Oh,
so,
look who's in the live chat now. Mr. Representative Bryant Wolfen, it's great to see you in the live chat. And we need to get you on the show very, very, very soon.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
talk about this
Even if
latest
just for a
House
few
session.
minutes, yeah,
Yeah.
to talk about it.
Yeah, we got to get
For
you
sure.
on, get your take on your very first session as a representative in the Missouri
Right.
House.
Like, I'm just curious. Again, I don't know for sure. I don't know every single bill that Schroer sponsored, all the ones that he voted on that made it to the floor. Like, I'm not gonna pretend to be the biggest Missouri Senate expert here, but I would like to know if there were bills that he introduced, because they talked about him. He was like the legislative master, or whatever that guy called him at the beginning. I wonder how many bills he introduced that actually would have lowered taxes for everyone, not for like the top bracket of the income tax, not not like a piece here or there for his, because he even said, he's like, I would like to have seen taxes lowered in general. I want to know if he has sponsored any legislation that would have actually lowered taxes.
So he apparently had 62 bills this session, right? So we've got everything from modifies provisions relating to certain conventions and sports facility authorities, designates every August 19th as Eddie Goodell Day, or however you say his name, designates every October 16th as Michael Collins Day in Missouri. Let's
Wow.
see.
What a legislative powerhouse that guy must be, introducing all. I know he had one that was renamed part of Highway 70, Donald J. Trump Highway.
Yes.
So let's not forget that. He's really good at introducing bills to rename things. He's a good namer of things.
I'm trying to, yeah, there it is. SB 500 would have designated President Donald J. Trump Highway in St. Charles County.
While you're on there, yeah, see if there's anything that you can see that off the top is just a very general tax cut for the people. Because that's one thing he said. He's like, I would have loved to have seen a general tax cut for the people. I want to know if you introduced that legislation then.
So
if that's what you wanted to see.
I'm only on page 1 of 2, but he did have a bill, SB 484, requires all elections for local tax increases to be held at a general election. Let's see what else we've got here.
Sure. That makes sense.
Authorizes a tax credit for certain educational expenses. So tax credits, we love those. Yeah,
Certain
I don't
educational expenses.
see anything about cutting taxes. I don't see anything.
Right.
So Comrade
No.
Schroer, again, if you really, if Comrade Schroer's on X and you're on X and you see him, which I have to go back and we'll have to, once the Locke and Smith Foundation comes out with the scores on the constitutional scoring of senators and representatives. Once we get those numbers, and if it's as low as it was the last time I looked, which was like 29%, and he got on X and he tried roasting someone, and he was trying to say how much of a conservative he was, and I basically put in a comment, that's real rich coming from a guy who voted constitutionally 29% of the time. He never, ever, ever responded to that. Now, if I called him out on other things, he would resort to his normal trolling, name-calling tactics. When I called him out on his constitutional voting record, I got crickets, which is freaking amazing, which means I was over the target, and he doesn't want to talk about that. But that's what we need to talk about.
One thing they talked about freedoms a lot in there, right? But as far as I know, I still need a license to do just about anything in this state. Like, that's another thing, is they talk about how they're like the Freedom Caucus, we're adding freedom. What did you make easier for the common person? Like, I still need a license to go fishing. Still need a license to go, like, hunting tags. Like, there's still so much I need to do that the government shouldn't have a hand in to begin with. And then one thing they also don't mention in their whole speech is reducing the size and scope of government. They didn't mention it one time, and I can't think of any legislation that got passed that truly limited the size and scope of anything.
No, but again, so I like to bring this up, right? We talk about these guys and we poke a lot of fun at them, but if I could get in front of all the people that vote for these people consistently and pretend like they're awesome sauce, right? I would also make fun of them. And I would bring in their constitutional voting record, and I'd be like, this guy says he's constitutional. Explain this to me, and explain to me why you continue on reelecting someone like that. That question has to be asked again. Now, I get it. The people aren't educated, and we've all got to do we all try to do our thing to educate people on what's right and what's wrong as far as government. It's not an easy task because the people have been so indoctrinated. And they're so used to living in this system that it makes it very hard to pull them out, right? COVID did a pretty good job of yanking some people out, right? They took that red pill and they're like, whoa, easy, tiger. Pump the brakes a little bit. Like homeschooling went up dramatically. That's a big thing. That was a big thing. Now, hopefully, a lot of those people continue to homeschool their kids as time goes on. We don't know. I haven't seen those numbers. I haven't checked them. But I'm hoping those numbers, I think they're continually climbing instead of decreasing. But yes, a lot of self-congratulatory stuff in there. They keep continuing on. I love how they make it sound, though, that Justin Sparks is the reason why this pro-life stuff and all this stuff happened. He brought it to light a little bit, and he kind of got it out there. But a lot of those people that I guess maybe he's saying he helped him push this also voted against him when he ran for Speaker of the House. I mean, Patterson won it in a landslide. And I mean like a California mudslide after torrential downpours. Everything just got buried. And I will say, I am shocked. Even though these bills are unconstitutional for the majority, I am shocked that some of these bills got out, right? I'm surprised they even scooted through. Now, there were people saying that Patterson may be actually a little better than Plocker was and not as much of a tyrant. I'm going to hold my judgment on that. But a lot of these bills that couldn't get done the last few years got done this year. So it is interesting. Again, the majority of them unconstitutional. So we need to work on that. But some of the gold and silver, even though it was unconstitutional as all get out, it got slapped into another bill that had nothing to do with gold and silver, but it still made it through, right? That shocked me that it even got through, even amended onto another bill. So maybe Patterson is a tiny bit better than Plocker was. I don't know. Again, I'm going to reserve judgment on him until we have more time to gauge his activities. But it's really interesting to hear these guys talking. Catherine Dreyer's in the live chat. Good to see you, Catherine. But yeah, it's just, I couldn't get through all. I think I got through 20-something minutes of it. I just couldn't. Catherine said when she heard Magnificent Seven, she stopped listening right there. She's like, nope, and just shut the video off and couldn't listen. But I was like, I need to listen to more of it so I know exactly what, they're going to say, and I can bring a few topics up. But it was so much backpack. I'm surprised they didn't sit in a circle close enough to where each of them, as they're talking, the person behind them could pat them on their back so they could have a back patting circle.
That's what I was saying. It felt like they were doing earlier. Yeah. It was getting in the big circle and do a big back
buddy,
pat.
good job.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then, like we said, you don't strain the muscles.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. I farted there.
It's not that I'm not saying they didn't do anything. And I even prefaced from the very beginning, there are a couple true constitutional members of the one in the House, one in the Senate. And everyone else consistently votes under 50% constitutionality. So if you want to have the super highest standards, yeah, they all suck. And I'm not going to disagree with anyone who says that. But like I was saying, is the saddest part is these are supposed to be the Freedom Caucus members. These are supposed to be the most freedom, constitutional, conservative members. And they didn't fight for anything of value. They fought for some superficial wins. They got a couple of them. Apparently, at some point in the video, they talked about blocking some super bad gubernatorial educational appointee, which, like I said, they didn't do nothing, but they didn't do, like, they just did so little to be having this, like, if anything, they should be getting together and be like, man, we've got so much farther to go. Like, if I was a Freedom Caucus member based on the record of this last session, I'd be like, we are in our infancy of where we need to be. And like, but they're acting like they're at the finish line. And I'm like, buddy, the race just started. If the Freedom Caucus members were the farthest left members of the House, we'd be in a great place. I'm not saying they need to go, but if they were like, that was the far left, was the Freedom Caucus, and then you had like libertarian like hardliner constitutionalists on the other side, then they'd be a good balance in the mix, I guess. But not like if those are supposed to be our champions of liberty, like you said, it's just so disappointing to see.
I'll be honest. Somebody like Tim Jones being the leader of that's a lot of problem. You know, the fact of the matter is that there's still ties. There's all this Republican money coming in, right? They're getting their money from the Republicans, right? So whatever the big guys in Republican Party want to get done, they're still going to be kind of beholden to them. There's no real, they're not decentralized enough for me to be comfortable and be like, I think these guys got this. They're still tied so much to Republican money, donor money, and I feel they're just they're big government Republicans. They really are. And that's the saddest part of this. I'm not saying, when I say this, I almost sound like I'm saying they're all like evil people. That's not what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying that they're necessarily evil, but they don't have their priorities right. They're still beholden to a party. And I would like to see more of an independent body, not independent like party-wise, but independent in thinking of what the big boys in the Republican Party want, what the lobbyists want. I'd rather see a much more independently minded group of people getting together and saying, this is the most freedom thing we can do. And if those same people would say, this year, we're going to work our tails off to block every bad, unconstitutional piece of legislation. This is what we're going to educate the public on. Instead of writing 60 freaking bills, we're going to sit here and duke it out with everybody else, and we're going to try to stall every crap piece of legislation that comes through. I would be really happy with that. But that's not what's going to happen. You know, it's the same way at the federal level, where people are like, oh, they're going to get all this done. No, they're not. Doge found the things to cut. They funded a continuing resolution and funded everything they were supposed to cut. They kept the spending at its level and raised it. Now, I thought that all these people expected these cuts. I never did. You know what I was happy about? I was happy to see Elon Musk on X saying, look what we found today. I thought that was more important than anything else that a lot of these other people do, where they just kind of say some things that's the Republican talking point, and that's all they do. You know, like Massey's better. Massey explains himself, says this is why this is terrible. So I liked it when Musk or somebody else would get on there on X and post the whole thing, go, look how horribly they've spent your money, and look at the stupid things they've done. Because it kind of kickstarts the brain a little bit. Now, there's a lot of Trumpers out there who just ignore everything around them. They put their what do they call those? Their blinders on, and just progress down the Donald Trump train. All aboard. Toot toot, you know. But in Missouri, we have the same thing. We have people who think that these guys are just the bee's knees, and they don't look at the people who are actively trying to do the right thing and generally do it about 75, 80, 85% of the time. Those people don't get enough focus. We focus on the loudmouths. People like the Missouri Freedom Caucus. That's where the people focus, because they're out there spouting about all the good things they've done. Meanwhile, the most constitutional folks are generally in the background doing the good work. They'll talk about a little bit if you ask. They'll raise awareness, but they sure as heck don't go around and act like they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. So it is phenomenal to see. But Republicans in Missouri, or the people in Missouri who vote Republican, are acting like the people who are Republicans that vote for Trump. They ignore the elephant in the room way too often.
I want to talk about the big beautiful bill.
Oh,
The big beautiful bill.
that
end,
20
the bill to
the
end
$20
all
trillion
bills.
over 10 years in spending bill?
Yeah, the $2 trillion deficit spending, because the White House is doing the same game that every White House does. Not every White House, but like Republicans that pretend they're going to cut spending. Not that they ever do it, but they're like I think because Trump isn't spending quite as much, like as like they cut the rate of the spending, right? Like they instead of spending at 10%, like adding 10% to the budget, I guess they only added 8. I don't know for sure. But and so the White House is claiming that they cut spending, and they just cut the amount in which they were overspending. Like, oh, we were overspending by like $2.5 trillion. Now we're only overspending by $2 trillion. Yeah, I want to dive into that pretty hard later. But I think that now would be a good time to segue into, we are not the worst. We did not have the worst week for a state legislative session. That belongs to the state of Texas. If you
I want
to do that up and
this is a very short video, right? But it is just
it's real, by the way. This is
real.
This is not a skit. This is real.
Not from the Onion or anything. This is real deal here. This is in the Texas House. I believe it was last week. All right, I'm gonna bring this up. This is our. I don't want to call it feel-good story because it's not a feel-good story, but this is like our funny story of the week, right? Because it's kind of funny. It's sad but funny at the same time. Let me pull this up.
Hey, howdy, Texans. You're not going to believe what I'm about to show you. So the Texas House of Representatives spent the first 3 months not working, not passing Republican priorities. We still haven't dealt with property taxes. We spent 3 months not working. It's a Saturday. We have 240 bills they're going to pretend to work on today. And on that one day with 240 bills, which we're not going to get to, what are we doing right now? That's right. Mariachi. This is your Texas House. Not cutting property taxes, not dealing with Republican priority bills. Check this out. I'm sorry, Texans. You've been betrayed. The Texas House is corrupt, and you deserve better.
Oh man, I mean, I guess we got it okay in Missouri. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. We didn't end the session with a giant bluegrass banjo session, so I will say it could have been worse.
Hey, don't give me any freaking ideas, right? You know what? Oh, dude, I don't ever like play the Powerball, but I should, right? Because if I won, you know what I would do? I would pay Slayer whatever amount of money they wanted to show up at the last day of session and just sit on the Capitol lawn and just play like Angel of Death or something, like as everybody's like, ooh, and coming out, and then just Tom Arai's like, ah, screaming, and just scare the life out of them. They're like, who did that? And I'd be standing there like, hey, guys, I brought Slayer. I thought it'd be a pretty good way. I thought Angel of Death would be a pretty good way to end this session, seeing how you keep trying to murder freedom at every step, you jackwagons. So yeah, that's like a dream of mine, just to win enough money to pay Slayer. It used to be come to my work and set up in the hallway and then just have the guitarist like, just crank it up to 11 and just hit a power chord and just shatter all the windows out. But now it's the state house or the state capitol. I'd much rather send them there. Kevin says, makes me want a margarita. Listen to that mariachi. They probably, you know what's the sad part? They're probably somebody somewhere in that house probably has a bar in their office and they were probably drinking margaritas that day.
And that's probably how this whole thing started. Is
A
they're like,
drunken
dude,
dare.
instead of voting on bills, let's get a mariachi band down there, like a good one too, so no one will even complain.
Yeah, yeah. They have to be like the guys from because I heard this on Good Morning Liberty on their Dumb Bleep of the Week episode the other day, and they're like, the acoustics in that place is really good. That sounded really good, but other than that, that's freaking horrible. Yeah, just have a mariachi band going. Yeah, it's freaking awesome. But yeah, folks,
Ridiculous.
again, we like to make fun of DC because DC is easy to make fun of, but this is just across the states. You just have this dumb. It's like it's built in. The dumb is just built in. It's so freaking sad. It really is. And yeah, but anybody that like, I know that we don't have to worry about Bryant doing this, but Bryant, if you could ensure that our representatives or senators don't bring in a mariachi band at some point, as some kind of diversity and equity and inclusion thing, and have a mariachi band playing at the dais and the house or something, that would be fantastic. Like, I've seen, listen, I have listened to Democrats and some Republicans in that building, and it is already a circus, right? It's a circus of stupid. It doesn't need its own music. It doesn't need like a movie score, like some big film like Star. They don't need John Williams, the conductor, to come up and write a thing, even though it would be funny to write like some kind of symphony when Republicans and Democrats are debating, to write some funny music and then just pipe it in, and they'll be like,
no, you know
with
how
the
you were
music?
talking about having Slayer outside of the session at the very end? Better idea. John Patterson walks out of the Capitol building for the last time of the session, and the Darth Vader theme music starts playing. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. Yeah, that would be classic.
That would be awesome. Yeah, and the leadership in the Senate could get the same treatment. Yeah. Voodoo Queen says, Bryant, we need two old men playing spoons. That would be hilarious, too. All right, so, yeah, there was that. Just a quick, like, kind of a sad but funny audio clip from the Texas House because,
Well, we can laugh at it. We can feel good about it. It's not us. Like, we have, we have a fake conservative legislature, so it's good to see someone else doing worse than us. Take the win where I can get it.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Because Texas is always held up as like the pinnacle of conservative liberty, and Texas wouldn't stand for that. Texas is going to secede. No, it's good to see that they've got their issues too. I've been saying for a while that Missouri needs to take over as the new Texas.
It would be nice. They don't have property taxes down there. Any of that. Okay, real quick, folks. I want to bring this up, but I don't want to go into too much depth because Catherine's got her own podcast. She's going to talk about this when she does her podcast Monday. I'd say the majority of us all got something from our county assessor saying that our valuations on our property went up. So that means your personal property tax bills are going to increase again. And there's a lot of dots to connect here. But I'll let I don't want to jump in here. I don't know that much. I saw it a little bit. Catherine and Tom were talking about it earlier today. But I don't want to interject too much. I'd rather let it when we come back 2 Tuesdays from now. Catherine and Tom and Brandon and I can all kind of hash this out and discuss. Because you just think it's, some people did this. Oh, yeah, it's people. But a lot of you are going to be astonished at who's responsible for the property tax hikes and really the lack of trying in the state of Missouri by just about everybody to rid us of personal property taxes. Again, the Farm Bureau, the Chamber of Commerce, I even believe, they don't want property taxes gone. Why wouldn't? That's a question I keep asking. Why wouldn't the Farm Bureau want to get rid of a tax burden on the farmers of this state. So again, if I'm a farmer, if I'm paying dues to the Farm Bureau, I'd be up their butts asking, "Hey, how come you guys keep railing against the elimination of a personal property tax? Like, I thought you were supposed to look out for us." But the Farm Bureau seems to be interested in big ag, just like Parson was. I think Kehoe's going to be the same way. More agricultural tax cuts as time goes on. You know, you got the Cattlemen's Association up there testifying about that bill keeping biological males out of girls' sports, and the guy's like, "What are we doing? They're not hurting anybody. You guys are going to win. Why are we even talking about this?" Because he was upset because he couldn't get his tax credit bills in front of a committee or something. He was all butthurt. Or whatever else he was angry about, little jackass. But anyway, that's the kind of stuff we got in Missouri. Let's move one state. We went a couple states south. Let's go one state east. Because Governor Pritzker here, he's got a grand idea.
This one had me had me upset. When you sent me this. You emailed me though.
Yeah. So yeah, it is. This is Governor Pritzker here. This is a wise man indeed. A guy's literally never seen a meal that he didn't love. Because that is one fat fatty. I'm sorry, but that is one big fat fatty socialist piece of garbage.
Yeah, for all of the people who make fun of Chris Christie, how come we don't get no more JB Pritzker jokes? I mean, those guys could definitely sumo wrestle. I don't think they could get on an elevator at the same time.
No way. Or an escalator. They couldn't get on an escalator at the same time.
If I'm getting on an elevator and it's JB Pritzker and Chris Christie, I'm taking the stairs. I'm not trusting that.
Nope, because I fully expect the brakes to fail and go plummeting to 10, 15 stories straight down. So no thank you. But yeah, we've got this article here. This comes from Illinois.gov, by the way. And, I'm sure they're really proud of this. Governor Pritzker awards over $10 million in Illinois grocery incentive grants. Now, here's the thing. This sounds like, he just wants to somehow fund grocery stores to keep it from going under. No. That's not what he wants. Brandon, you want to lead into this and talk about it a little bit?
Yeah. Today, J.B. Pritzker joined the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and local leaders to announce 8 awards totaling just over $10 million through the Illinois Grocery Initiative New Stores in Food Deserts program.
Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah. So it seems to me that like 8 different entities, or I only see 4 on this website actually. But apparently Heartstrong Meals, Heartstrong Groceries LLC got $2.4 million. The City of Venice got $2.4 million for municipal-owned new construction project in Venice. Mr. Market LLC got $3 million for a renovation project in Root House. And Al Rawi LLC got $2.4 million in the City of Marion for new construction in Marion. So here's what doesn't make sense to me. There are people in an area who need groceries. That's what I'm assuming he's describing by this food desert, is that there's like a lack of grocery stores.
So, something he clearly needs is a food desert. Fat fatty? Sorry. I had to interject that again.
He meant to type desserts. He was trying to boost the desserts.
I think that's what he meant.
Yeah, he meant to fund more desserts in Illinois to have more variety, but he accidentally typed in deserts. Yeah. But what doesn't make any sense to me is if there's people who need groceries, a grocery store should be there to fill it. I'm so confused as to what. The only thing I could think, and I heard about this happening, but I don't think this would be the case. But I've heard of like Walmart was being perpetually robbed in the city of Chicago. So they left, like they closed certain stores because the theft was too high to stop. And the city governments will not arrest people for petty crimes like that. And so if that's what they mean by trying to solve the food deserts, and by pumping $10 million into grocery stores, how about you just crack down on theft? Like that, wouldn't that makes a little bit more sense? Is to just not let people steal from the grocery stores, and maybe your grocery stores won't leave. Am I missing something here, John?
No, I think I think crime had a lot to do with it. But he wants to build a municipal grocery store, which means the government will run it. And that
Oh
is
no.
scary as all. Because, okay, let's say you built a grocery store, right? Or the municipality builds a grocery store, and you see J.B. Pritzker about to walk in the door. Question number one, do you lock the doors for fear that he is going to wipe out the hostess shelves? Do you
Well,
post
I mean, that's just
security?
good business. You can't push away your highest paying customer like that.
Oh, God,
Now,
I
if he was
just-
going into like the Golden Corral might lock the door on him. But I don't, the grocery store's not going to lock the door on him. The grocery store's going to pop a bottle of the nicest Dom Perignon and celebrate the giant stacks he's about to make. But anyway, no, that didn't even dawn on me when I read that. That's incredibly scary. The government owning grocery stores. Because
Yeah.
what'll happen is the government will subsidize this grocery store, and so other grocery stores won't be able to compete or open. And then, let's say that grocery store can't get something or can't afford to pay for something, then there's going to be food shortages because everyone's relying on the government.
Yeah, I believe they want to put a municipal one there in Venice. I think that's the goal, is to literally build because it says City of Venice, 2.4 million, municipal owned new construction project in Venice. So, yes, it will be owned by the City of Venice. I mean, clearly nothing could go wrong there. Let's not make it easier for grocery stores to come in, or like you said, let's not let people steal anymore. Let's actually combat the crimes of theft in the area. No. We'll just take $2.4 million, build a grocery store that will be owned by the city. And can you imagine what the theft is going to be like in that place? Holy smokes. It's probably going to look like a bomb went off in there. There's going to be crap scattered everywhere. This is what I picture when I think about this, because the laws, the way they're writing laws and what laws they want police to enforce in that state, I can't see like them really being serious about keeping the theft down in a municipal owned store. This has been in the works, by the way, for a while in Illinois. I think Chicago's looking at the same thing. I think the mayor of Chicago was going to try to do that. I think other big metropolitan cities have also are thinking of doing the same thing, because God forbid we just back off the people that want to own a grocery store. That's the thing. So when people see Schnucks or Gerbs or some of these big, chain grocery stores, they're like, oh, these people make millions. A grocery store makes about 3% profit. Okay? They'd have you believe that a grocery store makes like 50-60% profit. No, they make about 3% is their profit. Now, if you have enough stores, that generates more revenue than if you own one, right? I mean, that's common sense. That's common math. But grocery stores are made out to be the villains in this whole economic disaster we're living through. And it just absolutely chaps my butt when people do this.
So, I'm just going to tie this in because I'm sure you saw the Good Morning Liberty thing on Walmart and the diagram they had where like they break down, because Walmart only makes a 2.5% profit because, I'll preface it with a little backstory. Is Donald Trump, well, obviously the tariffs have hit Walmart. They sell a lot of foreign products and they sell them relatively cheap for what they get them for. They only make a 2.5% profit. And so Walmart raised their prices because a lot of what they sell is not made in America. A lot of, electronics, toys, games, and stuff like that. And Donald Trump had some Truth Social post about it. I'll find it really quick, I'm sure. But he's basically railing against Walmart for raising their prices.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And it reads like a Bernie Sanders tweet. Like, if you replace the word tariffs with taxes, this is how it would read. Walmart should stop trying to blame taxes as the reason for raising prices throughout the chain. Walmart has made billions of dollars last year, far more than expected. Between Walmart and China, they should, as it is said, eat the taxes and not charge valued customers anything. I'll be watching, and so will your customers.
Sounds like
They
socialism.
they don't have the wiggle room. Like, they only make a couple $1 million per store. Like, and that's on top of selling millions of items, hundreds of millions of items per store. I mean, hundreds to thousands of people shop at Walmart every day. And so they are only making very little slice off of everything they sell. Yep. And so, of course, a business, you're either asking Walmart to not make money or to not or raise, that's their choice, is they can either not make money this year because you decided to have a trade war with China to look better, or they can raise their prices a little bit because you put a tax on them.
Yeah, the only thing really gripes me about Walmart is they go into these towns and they get a tax rebate. They'll sign a contract with a town for 3 years. So much sales tax gets rebated to them. And I'm like, okay, why are the towns doing this for Walmart and they're not doing it for anybody else? So a lot of cities are guilty of this. Now, Walmart's taking full advantage. Sometimes they don't get their rebates. They'll be like, fine, we'll just close it down. And then the city freaks out. They're like, oh, we're going to lose the shopping, we're going to lose this big store. And they're looking at all the tax revenue they're going to lose. So they're happy to give some back. But it's like, if you want to be mad at Walmart for something, be mad at them for that. Don't be mad at them because you've jacked the economy up and everything's gone up, so they have to raise their prices in order to stay in that profit margin. Don't be mad at them for that. There's way more worse things going on than Walmart raising their freaking prices right now.
But that's even like, to what you just said a second ago, like, when you build a Walmart and then subsidize it, right? Whenever the Walmart leaves, like, the government says, okay, we're not going to subsidize your Walmart anymore. You have to pay your own taxes just like everybody else in this town. And Walmart up and leaves. The people in that town still need groceries.
Yeah.
And so when you've subsidized Walmart, you didn't add any benefit to the economy. You've just changed where those people are going to spend it. It's the same concept whenever cities want to fund these big sports stadiums. It's not that you're generating a ton of revenue because of the sports stadiums. People are just not going to spend their money at that, and they're going to spend their money on something else. So you don't need to subsidize it. I mean, you're not helping your economy. It's been proven. There are study after study after study to prove that you don't boost your economy by giving these large corporations these subsidies. All you do is shuffle the money around to make the politicians can say that they generated revenue and that they created these new jobs, when in all they really did was shift where the jobs were and shift where the money was, and then tear a muscle patting themselves on the back.
Yeah, it's there's so much, again, it all falls back to regulation, taxation,
Well,
all these things, government spending.
And it's business in bed with government. It's crony capitalism at its finest.
Yeah, it is a public-private partnership, and a public-private partnership should be looked at like the spawn of Satan. Nothing good is going to come out of it. Nothing good.
No.
A bunch of smaller businesses will lose out. They'll have to shutter their doors. They'll have to stop their operations. They'll put people on unemployment because somebody had enough money to help and enough lobbyists to write a bill that helped put their competition out of business. And I'm tired of only one side of this this equation getting the blame. That's what ticks me off, right? Everybody wants to be mad at Walmart, but who are they in cahoots with? Democrats and Republicans have to come to the realization that both parties participate in this nonstop. They've got their lobbyists who throw, and this goes at the federal level, this goes at the state level, hell, it goes at the local level. You got to understand that both political parties, for the main part, partake in this. They are knee deep in it. And people just want to say, oh, it's the Republicans. They're dirty. They're only for the rich. Oh, yeah. You might want to go look at the campaign donations of the Democrats. I bet you find the big banks are donating to them and all these other big operations are donating to them. But you've just been, you've done the mental gymnastics and wrapped your brain around a faulty piece of information. And now your brain's shorting out and your ears are smoking. And everybody else just looks at you that has more than 2 brain cells to rub together and looks at you like you've lost your freaking mind, because you have. And you need to go find it. It's running away. It's going down the street. Go chase it, put it back in your head, and get some self-control. I don't know. This stuff, we keep talking about it. We keep beating up on it. I just wish more people in both parties, all right? Not just, it's easy to pick on the Democrats, folks. It's easy. They open their mouth, they say things, and you just go, wow, I didn't think you'd get more stupid. The Republicans, there's a lot of Republicans doing the exact same thing. And Catherine, real quick, makes a great point. Same with universities. That's why tuition is so expensive, because we've subsidized all these big universities, and they're getting money from both sides. And who are people getting mad at, right? They're getting mad because college isn't free. Not that there's these two entities are in cahoots with one another, and the universities are going to the bank. They're not getting mad at the right institutions, not just one part of the equation. Look at X, X plus Y equals, you're going to get screwed. Look at the 2 people that's making the equal sign that says you get screwed at the end. I don't know. I was really good at algebra at one time if I try to do it now. But I don't know. We need to make a shirt that says X plus Y equals you get screwed. And you can just put like corporations plus government in parentheses below it or something, like a math equation shirt. But anyway.
That's not even algebra. That's just simple math.
That's simple math. But for some people, that's like calculus.
Oh, it's beyond their comprehension.
Yeah, they're just like, oh,
sure.
what do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to feel like I glossed over it because I did it first, and I just want to go back because I'm still in shock. The government, I mean, I didn't even think it was like a controversial thing to say that like the government shouldn't be involved in running any business. Like that shouldn't be a controversial statement. It shouldn't even be an argued statement, because like by nature, government can't run business. Like it's not like physics where like if you drop the pencil, it's every time gravity's going to take it down. But the economic principles of like supply and demand and competition, they're almost as real as physics. And when you mess with them and when you manipulate how, like, it's like, I mean, starting a whole grocery store is like the beginning of the end for a state. I mean, it's like a dire thing. I couldn't imagine if like, the city of O'Fallon where I live, if they tried to open up the city of O'Fallon grocery store, I would have to try to burn it down, I think. I mean, I really don't know what else what to do at that point, because it's going to ruin the grocery industry for everyone. It's going to cut everyone else out of business. There's going to be, I mean, the people of Marion, Illinois should be up in arms right now.
And they're not.
It makes
Guaranteed they're not.
No.
Well, most
they're like,
of them probably
I'm going to get cheap groceries for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Government subsidized groceries.
They don't see it coming out somewhere else in the back end in taxation or something to keep that store afloat. So they don't. Again, it's just a lack of basic knowledge. It really is. It's sad.
It's gonna be people. It's gonna be the taxpayers of that city are eventually gonna have to start funding it, because what's gonna happen is this grocery store is not gonna be able to survive on its own. It's going to need to continually get government subsidies to stay afloat. And then it's going to, like you said, it's going to turn into such a horrible grocery store with everything so scattered everywhere that the people who fund it with their tax dollars probably aren't even going to be the ones shopping there. They're probably going to try to find somewhere else to get their groceries or drive even farther away because they don't want to go to that public grocery store, but they're probably going to be the ones funding it the most. I mean, it's going to be if it comes to fruition where it's a fully like municipal owned grocery store, it's going to devastate the grocery economy. It's going to have horrible effects.
Yeah.
It's like Obamacare for health insurance times 10. Because at least in the health insurance market, not everyone necessarily needs it. It's super expensive to get healthcare even if you have it. And so, I mean, like there are options when it comes to healthcare. Not a lot of them, and they're not great, but you have some sort of leeway and options because you don't need them. Everyone needs to eat. Everyone eats food. So like this is going to be horrible. I just wanted the more I kept thinking about it sitting here, I'm like, this is a disaster.
Oh yeah.
Like this is a premise is just like the worst idea I've ever heard. Because like you said, and like Catherine mentioned, everything the government subsidizes gets more expensive and less quality. Everything by nature, because you're eliminating the need for competition.
Yep. And and that's the thing. I want to know who's going to get blamed when this grocery store fails. When it finally goes under and they're like, we just can't do this anymore. Who are they going to blame? They're probably going to blame the other grocery stores and the big chains for ruining it for them. They will not take accountability for a stupid idea. They will not. They will sit there and they'll blame some rich guy in another town or a rich owner of some chain, but they will not take accountability. They will not take responsibility for their actions. They will just continue to utter the same stupid catchphrases they always do, and the people, for the most part, will believe them. And that's the worst part. It's just this whole thing. If more people would open up their minds a teensy-weensy bit, right, and really listen when a politician speaks, in a better society, I don't want to say perfect world, but in a better world, somebody like Pritzker could say something, and then everybody would go like, ha, oh my God, Pritzker's drunk again. And they just ignore him and go like, yeah, we're not doing that. But they don't. Cook County runs Illinois, and people, I think Illinois needs to write a new law that if Pritzker wants to raise taxes, he has to take part in a 5K event. Mm-hmm. And he has to finish in a certain amount of time. And he can't have a body double in a fat suit fill in for him. He has to complete the 5K event. If he can make it 5 kilometers without passing out, needing oxygen, or eating some ding-dongs or ho-hos to get his blood sugar back up to finish the race, then he can have it. But if he can't, then it's a no. You don't get it, you fatty. You cannot have your tax, your municipal grocery store. You can't have anything. And it's like, okay, for every pound you lose, right, then we'll give you this. But you have to at least lose 50 pounds to start. We're not going to start at 10 pounds. You have to knock off at least 50. You have to get your cholesterol and your blood pressure down to this number, and then we'll start talking. Because knowing him, he'd lose a half a pound and be like, winning. And they would just all be like, oh, he lost some weight. Cool. And then he would just like Jabba the Hutt, just keep throwing stuff down his gullet and getting fatter. I wonder, this is a scientific question, a theory. You got people like Chris Christie, you got people like Pritzker and some others. Do some politicians just get fat off the misery they cause with their stupid? Like, the more people get pushed down and stomped on, it just somehow those people's will to live gets sucked into their body fat and they just start ballooning out. Now, I would like to think that's the case, but then you look at Newsom, and Newsom's a pretty trim guy, and he's caused more misery than just about any state governor has in the history of the United States, and somehow he's staying slim. So what's the how do some of these guys get big and fat with in highly taxed, highly regulated, awful environments? And Newsom's over here looking like, I got nice hair, got nice clothes, not fat fatty. I can BS with the best of them. And like, how do we get from skinny, trim, fit guy who everybody seems to think is, Democrat-wise thinks is like the bee's knees, to like a fat fatty like Pritzker, a Jabba the Hutt type figure, and people drop down to their knees for that guy? I don't know. It's just weird.
I'll say, because with guys like Pritzker, I think it's genetics. So like you'll have guys like Pritzker and Chris Christie. See, they're full of crap, literally. Like, they're just so full of crap. That guy,
constipated,
But,
yeah, okay,
yeah. But then you'll have another genetic type like Newsom. They can't stop spewing crap out, and so that's what it is. Some people take it in and swell up, and that's how you can tell they're full of crap. And some people just can't stop spewing crap out of their mouth. And so that's where I think the disconnect comes from. I think we need RFK Jr. to do a study on this, a blind, placebo, double trial study of why some politicians get fat and why some don't. I think that's just my theory, though. I'm not I'm not Brett Weinstein, okay? I'm not like a genetic expert on anything, but that's my best guess.
You're not Sam Harris or...
No, I'm not Sam
Nina
Harris.
Turner.
I don't meditate in the mornings on bombing innocent kids, but that's anyway.
You're not a Nina Turner fan. Oh my god.
No. There's a story I want to talk about really quick because it's important to me. This is a quote from Donald Trump. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. It looks like might have been today. Quote, "I don't think Thomas Massie understands government. I think he's a grandstander, frankly. He'll probably vote no. We don't even talk to him much. I think he should be voted out of office. I just don't think he understands government." And then he goes on to say, if you ask him a couple questions, he never gives you an answer. He just says, "I'm a no." I think he thinks he's going to get publicity. That's... Oh, man. Because I'm sure, this is a good segue into the big, beautiful bill. Yeah, obviously, it's a 1,160-page gigantic mess that spins at the same level as Joe Biden. And so naturally, a fiscal conservative like Thomas Massie is going to vote no on that. And so this is like the fifth or sixth time in the last like 2 or 3 years where Donald Trump just makes a total ass out of himself. Just can't even help himself. So,
yep.
I mean, you can't even... I got no words for this other than the fact that once again, you have just Donald Trump does decent things occasionally, but like just how can you be this hard-headed towards the only true, like the only member of Congress who sticks by their principle? It's not even that he's like, I have an agenda and we disagree on a lot of things. I'm not his, like, we're not really big fans of each other because we disagree on how we want to get things done. It's that, like, he acts like Thomas Massie is incompetent, when in reality, it's the opposite. It's that Donald Trump doesn't know, like, he's a populist president trying to win support by spending money. And Thomas Massie's calling him out on that.
Yeah, listen, man, I don't even try to figure this out anymore. I really don't. I just go, oh, we're doing this now. Okay, cool. I don't, but yeah, like I said, I can't mentally, it's just an ego trip. That's all. It's an ego trip. It's because he wants it and somebody doesn't want it, and it hurts his ego. He's such an egomaniac, and he can't take it. So,
well, I think also Thomas Massie is just popular enough where Trump feels like he has to address it also. Like, it's like Thomas Massie has just enough of like his cult following. I mean, I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm a full-on cult member of the Thomas Massie fan club, but like the dedicated supporters of Thomas Massie there's just enough of us where like when Thomas Massie comes out against a Trump bill, he can't just not say anything. He can't just like acknowledge that there's a guy who disagrees with him on principle. He has to say something. And that's the worst part. And that has always been one of Trump's downfalls, is that he always has to say something. He can't just ignore a story or let it go. He's got to draw attention to himself every chance he gets. Which is so funny because he's the one accusing, he thinks he's going to get publicity. Thomas Massie does not need the publicity from this. I haven't even seen him on a show. Like he doesn't go on like the rounds on Fox to or not even on like the more not establishment, the less mainstream conservative outlets. He doesn't even go on there and bash Trump for those things. Like, this is not a plea for publicity. I think it's crazy that Trump would say that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like I said, it is just amazing the amount of stupid that comes out of his face sometimes. I don't know how else to put it. It's just the amount of stupid that comes out of his face. And again, if we didn't have people
Massey.
that would so easily fall for it,
Yeah.
it would be way better. But people just, they dive right into it, and you're like, okay,
I'll tell you
I
what
don't understand, but okay.
Well, I'll tell you what I think is interesting about this round in particular. So, like I said a minute ago, this is not the first time that Trump has came out and attacked Massie and tried to get him primaried and all that stuff. But this is the first time that I've seen where like there's like the conservative voices are not behind Trump. Like normally you'll have Cat Turd and what's his name? You'll have all these people jump to attack Massie for standing up against this bill. You're not seeing that at all this time. I think there's a little bit of change in the winds where like the true conservatives are making a push among conservative media where they're like, we're not going to attack Massie anymore. It's bad for business. Which is a good thing. I think that's moving the Overton window a little bit.
It is really bad for business to
attack Massie.
Attack Massie like that.
Well, Jimmy Dore, he's somewhat of a leftist. He's a big fan of Thomas Massie now. Like he's praised Thomas Massie a few times, and then he's been on Tucker Carlson, and just the places that Thomas Massie does go where he's been, he's got enough support from certain wings of the conservative movement that other conservatives I don't think are willing to attack him anymore, which is big.
I don't know. Suddenly my internet, I don't know. I guess I'm pushing out to YouTube. I don't know. I'm sitting there and all of a sudden I tried to refresh your page and nothing is, I don't know. It's just constant technical difficulties. So anybody who is just listening to this, you're fine and dandy, but the other side is not doing so hot right now, and I don't understand. About 15 minutes ago, it just shot crap. So I have no idea what's going on. Even my phone, it's like my router just took a dump again, which doesn't surprise me in the least.
Well,
but anyway.
We're still connected. We're still going.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what's going on. Firefox is suddenly like, I don't want to work anymore or something. I don't know what's going on. Crap is driving me nuts. Yeah, anytime I try to do anything on Firefox, it's like, I don't think you need to do that right now. And every try to do a web search, it just goes, you don't need to do that. So, yeah, something's going on. But it's like, I don't know. Hopefully Discord's not hogging up all the freaking bandwidth. That's terrible if it is. Anyway, all right, so let's talk about this other one here. And now I won't be able to pull it up because, well, maybe I will. Now it's wanting to act right. I wish I could figure this out, folks, but I can't. I am dumb. Let's talk about this St. Louis post that was VOP News, which I guess is Voice of the People, right? So, of course, we all know that last Friday afternoon, tornado touched down and Forest Park area and did some damage. I think they said it was an EF. So it was an EF2, EF3.
EF3 winds up to 165 miles an hour.
That's what it was. So we've got that, right? And so voice, I'm guessing this is Voice of the People. I've never seen this. Never heard of these folks before. They sound a little leftist, but hey, whatever, right? Says the sirens didn't sound and neither did accountability. Now, here's the funny thing. When I was on Facebook, after it happened, there were numerous people going, I never heard a siren the whole time. Well, okay, so it says, why didn't this administration review, revise, or reinforce those life-saving protocols in its first 30 days? We incorrectly listed the mayor's time in office as 5 months, whatever. The skies over St. Louis have cleared, but the storm surrounding the city's leadership is only intensifying. After Friday's deadly EF3 tornado tore through the metro area, killing 5, injuring dozens, and damaging thousands of homes, residents were left asking a hauntingly simple question. Why didn't the sirens go off? Today, Mayor Kara Spencer addressed the matter, directly confirming what many feared. The failure was not due to a technical glitch, but human error. Specifically, a button wasn't pushed. Rather than take immediate ownership, Mayor Spencer pointed to a protocol established in 2021 during the prior administration as a source of confusion. According to her, the document was not exceptionally clear about who was responsible for activating the sirens. That may be true, but it raises a more pressing issue. Why didn't this administration review, revise, or reinforce those life-saving protocols in its first 30 days? Let's break this down. The sirens were tested days before the storm. They passed. They were functional. But when the warning came down from the National Weather Service, no one stepped up to push the button. SEMA staff weren't at the control center. They were at a workshop blocks away. No backup plan was in place, no delegated responder, and no one asked a critical question, who's watching the weather today? The mayor's decision to shift siren activation duties to the St. Louis Fire Department moving forward is a step in the right direction, but it's reactive, not visionary. And then go on to talk about the same blame-shifting politics the mayor campaigned against, now referencing an outdated document from a previous mayor is being used to explain away a critical failure. It's not just weak, it's worrisome. Protocols don't operate sirens, people do, and someone under this administration was supposed to be ready. St. Louisans deserve more than a vague assurance that things will be more clear next time. They deserve a full accounting. Who failed to act in the moment? Why were they unprepared? Who was ultimately in charge, and why didn't they know it? This isn't a partisan issue. It's a public safety crisis. It goes on. All right. This is going to sound a little harsh to people in St. Louis, maybe, right? Why on God's green earth do you depend on the government to tell you that there's a tornado coming? Those sirens are not meant to be heard inside a home. If you're out, from my understanding, those sirens are put out so if you're outdoor, you know to get inside the shelter. They were not originally created for you to hear plainly in your house. Now, we've got newer ones in town because let me tell you, when we first moved in here for the first 10 years, really, the tornado siren was right in the front corner of our yard. So when they did a test, you knew it because when it got close to the house, it was devastating to the ears. Let's just put it that way, right? So it was terrible. But I was told that we had the better of it. If you were 3 houses over, it was actually louder. A lot of the sound passed over our house. But I was on third shift for a while, and I was trying to sleep, and then all of a sudden, the tornado siren's going off, and my bedroom window faces that street. So John got woke up in a big, big hurry when the tornado sirens were going off and about pooped the bed. But anyway, it's one of those things. Do we really want to depend on government for our safety? Right? I mean, I get it. So I had Darren Chappell on here when he was running for state rep. He won his election. And the town that he was, I think, mayor of or alderman or something, instead of updating the tornado sirens and spending all that money, you know what they did? They saved money, actually, and they bought every resident in that town a weather radio and said, this is more dependable. This is coming straight for the National Weather Service, which we have to hear from before we kick the sirens on. So here's a weather radio. Put it in your house. Keep it plugged in. And keep an eye on the weather that way instead of depending on us to go in through and update the sirens and test them all the time. So that's what they did. I'm not saying that the cities have to spend, because St. Louis would have to spend a boatload, and they'd misspend it, and they'd find the cheapest freaking radios to buy and spend way too much on them because somebody would get, somebody would run some shenanigans on them and overcharge them for the cheapest weather radio, and they'd spend too much and get too little. I'm just saying, there are other, the Wi-Fi network, Williams, does not appear to be connected to the internet. I don't understand. Anyway, so it does seem that maybe we are a little too dependent on government for our own security and safety sometimes.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but let's ignore like the whether the government should or shouldn't have, because this is a basic cheap function. This is not like some big government wasteful program. It shouldn't be, at least. I'm sure there is waste and fraud and abuse in the system in some way, but this is not like a super complicated system. The National Weather Service says there's a tornado warning. You press a button. I'm sure the sirens cost money to install. I'm sure they're not cheap. The system's not super, I'm sure it costs money to run it or whatever. But as far as government services, even as a libertarian, as far as like the last things I'd worry about for like the government to for the private entities to take over, it's like the tornado alarm system. And so it is like, I actually really agree with the people who wrote this article. It is staggering to believe that in a city like St. Louis, that you could have a whole department dedicated to firing the sirens when the tornado comes through, and an EF3 blows into town and you're not ready in in May, prime tornado season. I mean, it is absolute, there's no word salad you can make. Every single person who works in that building, if I worked in that building and every single person in the building was going to a workshop down the street, I would have to be the one that says no. Someone has to be here to press this button. It's literally most of our job. It just doesn't make any, this is insane. People should be fired up. And to your point, I will say to your point, when you have government failures of this size and this magnitude, you really need to not rely on the government for as much as you possibly, you need to be as sufficient with yourself and with your neighbors as you possibly can. But what's worse is that we're getting a classic female response to this. That's where the real emphasis of you need to learn how to take care of yourself really comes in, is after the disaster strikes, when you can't get clean water, you don't have electricity, your roads are all blocked, and you're waiting
And they're kicked off the internet. It's all down. Son of a gun. All right, so I guess we're gonna end the show a little early tonight because I completely lost my internet. I don't know if the router needs to be rebooted or something, but it is, it's cooked for this evening, I guess. Let me text Brandon real quick and oh shit. When did that happen? I don't know when it happened. It just happened. Well, I kept saying that it's saying YouTube can't refresh, can't do this, can't do that. And now the Wi-Fi and everything went down. So the router probably needs to be rebooted, and therefore I'm just going to end the show now because and then go down and reset the router, and hopefully it comes back up, and then I can upload the show and what have you. But yeah, this sucks. Technical difficulties right in the middle of a show. That's exactly how I want to do it. Oh, Brandon's going to call in here. We can do that. All right, let's see this. Okay, well, we can. I was going to end the show, but oh, let me patch you through the board the right way.
I was just calling you to see where we were at.
Yeah, no, it's my Wi-Fi took a dump, so I was just going to end the show because it's kind of derailed everything, and I've got to get it fixed so I can upload this stuff to everybody that needs it. But if you want to,
we can.
If you want to finish your thought real quick on this whole St. Louis thing, and then we'll go ahead and cut it short.
Yeah, sure. If you just want to patch me through.
Yeah, you're patched through now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the main point is that the disaster relief has been incredibly slow. And a lot of what you're seeing, like a lot of the best work that's being done around the city is by people who just drove up with chainsaws and just cut up and started clearing streets, handing out the supplies. And so, you know what's really funny too is that people are laughing at Josh Hawley because he was in the Senate asking Kristi Noem to release funds for this tornado effort, and people were like, weren't you the one trying to say FEMA belongs to the states, blah blah blah? And I'm like, this is exactly the reason, is that when you need these emergency funds, they're not available to you right away when people need them, like after an emergency. And so yeah, the more localized your help becomes, the better you're going to be anyway. So this is, if anything, the hurricanes in North Carolina and the tornadoes and the disaster efforts out in California, between all of it, we should all be looking to localize our response efforts and become less efficient on government.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're going to end with that, folks, and I got to go fix whatever technical difficulties that that have crept up on me. Unfortunately, this happens. I've had technical difficulties so many times when I'm trying to do this. I can be doing fine all week. Go to do a live stream, splat, there goes the internet. So, all right, folks, with that, we're going to call it a week, and we'll see you right here next Tuesday on the Internet Liberty Report. Now I'm so brain fried, I got the name of my show wrong. We'll be right back here next week, Tuesday at 6:30 on the Missouri Liberty Report. Have a great week, everybody. All right, I'm gonna hold on. Give me a second, bro.
Oh, you're good. Oh, hey, I'm just gonna go. Yeah. If you need anything from me or you got anything else to discuss, feel free to reach out. I'm gonna let you solve what you got going on over there.
All right, bro. I'll talk to you later, man.
I'll see you.
See ya. God damn! Right in the middle. Bro, what happened? I guess this thing just gets a weird thing going sometimes, and just like it just loses connection.
Where's the router even at in the house?
It's down. The modem's down behind that vanity on that shelf right by the front door. There's a little shelf where T-Bowl's at.
By the front door.
Yeah, I gotta dig way in there. Huh.